All right guys, welcome back to the garage. In this video, I got a couple things I want to clean up on the front end. Two things that were really bugging me about this car. Cheap, easy fixes to make the front end of these cars look more aggressive that you can do. So let me get it turned around and I'll show you what we're getting into. All right, headlights. You can see the lenses are cloudy. Looks like somebody tried to restore them at one point. I think some of this is sanding marks. What I'm gonna do is try to clean these lenses up. And if they clean up, then I'll show you guys how to black out this chrome inside here. Super easy. And then second, I wanna do a Daytona Super B style grille, which is just matte black. So we're gonna pull the grille out and paint it. Now, one thing about my grille is somebody had plasti dipped it at one point, and there's a lot of leftover plasti dip inside the grooves here. See that? So I gotta get all that off before I can paint it. But first things first is get the front bumper off. All right, now to get these bumpers off, they're kind of a pain. You got these push clips in here you have to take out, and then you got a bolt here, and maybe two more here, and then another one right there, take out. Push clips crossed, and obviously the same thing for the bolts on this side. And if you have the splash shield underneath, you'll also have push pins to take out under there. But to get to these bolts, you gotta pull this wheel liner out and get in there. Now, it's been a while since I've taken one of these bumpers off, but I'm gonna try to do it without removing the wheel. Just removing these push pins, peeling back the liner, and getting to these bolts in here. Now, one thing I hate about these early LX cars is these push pins are actually rivets. So basically they have to be drilled out, and then you can pop them out. And unfortunately, you can't reuse them. So once you drill these out, to find new push pins to put in there. And you see how they're just plastic rivets, junk. Okay, the first two bolts we have to get are two 10 millimeters right here. There's one here, and then there's one right inside there. Well, I was trying to avoid jacking the car up, but you gotta be able to pull this fender liner back to get to this first bolt here. There's a push pin right there. I want to undo, and hopefully it gives me enough flexibility to get this fender liner peeled away from the fender. Okay, that should work. I can see the bolt up there. Okay, then the final bolt is right here. And then also for this side, you want to pop out your corner light. Same with the other side. You can't remove the bumper with the corner light installed. Okay, now this side should be loose, all freed up in this seam here. We have to do the same for the other side, and then we'll remove all these push pins. All right, I got this side free, all the bolts are out. Now I'll pull these push pins, pull these panels out, and the bumper should be ready to come off. Now these just pop out. Just like that, super easy. Of course, push pins just pop out like any normal push pin. Now, if you have fog lights, make sure you don't yank too hard and pull the harness. So I'm just going to set it down like that, go underneath, and unplug the fog lights. All right, with the bumper off, you can see the intake better. See how it sits in there. Doesn't touch anything. I have thought about making a duct from the lower opening in the grill through here to duct air to the filter, but that's another day. Now you can see why I'm doing the headlights and the grille at the same time, because that bumper, getting them off these cars is not the easiest thing to do, just because you have 3 bolts and a nut on each fender to get out. And it's kind of a pain to go up in there through the fender liner to do that. So knocking out 2 projects while the bumper's off. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is pull this grill out real quick so I can put the bumper away so it's not in the way. You got 4 screws, and then the rest are just push tabs, and you can pop the grill out. Okay, I got the bumper stashed away, and we'll get to the grill later in the video. So as far as headlights, you know, I went back and forth a few times on, do I get new one-piece housings with the fancy DRLs and stuff, but I really like the OEM look. So I've done this before where I take them apart and black out the chrome rings. So I want to go that route. I considered just buying the cheapest set I could find on eBay for the lens. Just to put a clean lens on these. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have money just to throw away on parts. So I've got a sander, and I got sandpaper, and I got clear coat. So I'm just gonna try to save these first. If they can be saved, great. Then this whole headlight refresh will be basically free. So I'm gonna get to sanding, and hopefully these clean up. Okay, basically I'm gonna start with 400 and then work my way down to 3000. All right, your first step is always the most important step when you use the lowest grit, just because that will set up the rest of the sanding process as you go along. You don't want to leave any imperfections after your first sanding, because from here on out, all we're doing is removing the previous grit sanding scratches. So your first pass should get all the imperfections out. Now, if you go over here to this headlight, see this? That's the factory UV coating and then raw plastic. Whereas on the other one you saw, it was all one consistency. So you want all this gone until it looks like that other headlight. Also, if you notice, somebody burned the plastic when they were trying to clean them up before. So hopefully that'll sand out. All right, guys. After a ton of sanding, this is where I'm at. I got 800, 1000, 2000, and finished with a 3000 sponge. And that's the finish we're left with. See both sides. Almost clear. Now, a little trick, if you're not sure where you're at as far as sanding wise goes and you want to see what's it going to look like, clear coat, just take some wax and grease remover, spray it on there like that, just give it a wipe, and there you go. That's essentially what it'll look like clear coated. Just a little trick with the wax and grease remover. I think I'm happy with that. So before I clear coat them, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out. We're gonna pull the lens off, and I'm gonna show you how to black out those chrome rings. And I decided before I pull the headlights out, I'm gonna clean everything in here. It's nasty and it's kind of bothering me. Plus the headlights are filthy, and get all that dirt off of there before we pull them off the car. And then that way everything under here will be clean. I just got a hose and some diluted degreaser. I'm gonna pull that air filter off so it doesn't get wet and just go to town. All right, that's better. All clean under here now. Not that it matters, you'll never see it once the bumper's back on, but I feel better. All right, to take these headlights out, you got 1, 2, and then 3 8mm to take off, and they pull right out. All right, got the headlights out. First thing I'm going to do is remove the harness and any bulbs, and these backing covers and probably the ballast if you have HIDs, and then we'll split these apart. All right, you can see I have everything stripped down off the headlight. I don't know how necessary that is, but I just figure we're going to be using heat to get the lens off of these things, so I didn't want anything on the headlight that could be damaged from the heat. Now there's two ways to do this. One way is to bake them in your oven, which I've done many times, and it works great because it evenly heats the glue and they come apart real easy. And then another way is you just use a heat gun and heat this. You can just heat this seam here, go around and around and around, and slowly work it apart with some screwdrivers, and it'll come apart. These headlights are pretty simple and they're small. You got 4 sides. It's not very complicated like newer style headlights are. So I might just go ahead and try to use the heat gun, since, you know, maybe your wife or girlfriend don't want you to use the oven to bake your headlights in. So I'll show you the heat gun method. At least you can do that out in your garage. I got my heat gun and just a couple old flathead screwdrivers. I'm just gonna slowly heat this up around and around and work it apart. Some headlights will have screws holding the 2 pieces together, but these do not have any screws holding the housing to the lens. So it's just a matter of breaking the seal of that glue in here and it come apart. Obviously, watch out for these tabs. These are what snap together to 2 pieces. So you want to make sure you don't snap those off when you try to work this apart. There it goes, see? Don't force it, you'll crack that lens real quick. See that? Okay. Now also a tip, you notice I'm not blasting towards the lens like this, because you may burn this plastic before you even realize it. So I always go towards the housing. That way if anything gets burnt, it's this edge here of the plastic, not your lens, because going this way, that heat could eventually start melting this lens up here, and you don't want that. So now I got the 2 sides done in the top. I'm gonna go into the bottom and heat that up, and it should come right apart. Something I like to do is, as soon as I pull it apart, I squeeze this glue back together and back on the seam. So when we go put it back together, it's all globbed up on the seam here. We'll prep this when we go to put it back together. We'll fix all these pry marks here. We'll fix all that and get this glue put back down in that seam. So when we put them back together, they should seal. You can buy this. It's butyl, and it's a stretchy glue when it's cool, and you can stick it in there and then heat it up and it'll melt and put the lens back together, which is probably the correct way to do it. And I've done it that way, but I've also done it where I just reuse the glue that's already there. So now we need to take this housing out, and it just sits in there, but the glue may hold it in some places, so we'll have to heat that up just so it releases real easy. Like that. Kind of these lenses, they just snap in. There's little tabs that you kind of have to release to pop them out. Just take your time and go slow. You see there's a tab and there's a tab. They kind of lock in there, and then it just pops out once you release those. The bright one is just these 2 tabs. So now got to do the other headlight. All right, got all our pieces done. So now what we're gonna need, you're gonna need some kind of bucket or maybe a clear container of some sort, your favorite degreaser. And what we're going to do is throw these in here. I'm going to fill this with degreaser and just let them soak. Eventually that degreaser is going to eat all this chrome plating off, and what it's going to leave is a nice gloss shiny black on these pieces. So then we can just pop them back in the housings and put the headlights back together. Now this could take minutes. It could take hours. stuff like aftermarket headlights, the chrome on those tend to be a lot weaker and they strip a lot faster. OEM stuff might take a little longer. So basically I'm just going to come out every once in a while and check to see the condition, to see if it's starting to strip, and yeah, go from there. Well, I lied. These did not turn out black like I've seen before, so I guess they're getting painted. That's really odd that those didn't turn out black like I thought, and it's weird that they're gray. I've done tons of headlights like that where you soak the chrome housing in degreaser and it's a nice gloss black finish that it leaves. I even did the Forester. Okay, you can kind of see this housing in here. That was all chrome, and all I did was soak it in degreaser and it leaves this nice gloss black finish on there. So odd that Charger headlights didn't do that, but oh well. So here they are painted. I just went with a gloss black. I kind of wanted to contrast against this and not blend in. If I would have went with like a satin or matte, it would have been like all one color. So I want them to stand out, just not chrome. So I painted them gloss black. So I'm going to snap them in here real carefully and should be able to put the headlights back together. Okay, when these go in, this flat part needs to go up under the lips. Okay, there we go. Looks pretty good. Okay, I got both of these done. So now what we're going to do is put these back in the lens first. So we're going to want to heat up the glue in these spots where it sits, just so it sits down in the lens really well. So we'll heat up these 4 tabs that have the glue on them, stick it in there. Now, you want to make sure you get as much dust out of here as possible, because once you get it back together, you don't want to have dust in the lens and stuff like that. So I do recommend to not wipe the inside of here because it scratches very easily. And you may not even notice until you get it all back together and you're like, you got a scratched up lens and you don't know why. It's because it's on the inside. So I would say just blow it out with air. Same thing with here, blow this out with air and make sure it's dust free before you stick it back on the housing. Okay, I got that seated in there. We're gonna let it cool off a little bit and we're gonna focus on this. Now what I'm gonna do is go around this seam and heat it up really good. And that'll melt this glue that's down in here. And also while you do that, this plastic edge will get soft so you can fix these pry marks and just push them back in. And the plastic will wanna self-heal anyway when you do it, so you'll notice that. But yeah, you're gonna get that real nice and hot till that glue's almost liquid before we put the lens back on it. Okay, once you got that real nice and hot, and don't be afraid to keep going, you know. If you think you got it, keep going just a little bit more. Get that stuff nice and hot. I want us to do the same thing with the lens. I'm gonna get this seam hot where that glue was so that both sides are tacky before we put it back together. Now obviously don't go crazy on the lens because you don't want to burn, melt the plastic. So this is pretty tacky. I'm going to hit this one more time and then sandwich them together. Okay, I just got a few clamps on this just to help hold it together while it cools down. And now, while that sits, I'm gonna go knock out the other one and we'll get them on the car. All right, got them back together. You'll notice this one's a little clearer than that one. It's because I decided to try to polish it to see what would happen. And one quick pass, it looks pretty good. So I might try polishing these instead of clear coating them, just to see how clear they can get them. You can kind of get an idea of what they're gonna look like with the blacked out trim rings. So now I just need to get all the bulbs and stuff back in them. I'll put them on the car and I'll try polishing this again to see if I can get everything out of it. And if that works, I'll just coat them with some kind of wax or something. Since my car stays in the garage, it's not exposed to the elements. Now, if I was daily driving this, you would definitely want to clear coat them because without some kind of protection, they will fade real quick. So let me get these back together and we'll get them back in the car. All right, guys, there they are, all done. Polished them, got all the bulbs and everything installed, and that's how they turned out with the black rings in there. I think it looks good. Now, I had these corners in there with the clear reflector, but I don't feel like it matches now. So I got these all black ones. Oh yeah, I think that's the move right there. Matches great. I got some LED bulbs for the corners also to go in there. So yeah, a lot of work, but I didn't spend any money. It's just using stuff I had laying around. So what do you guys think, the clear or the black housing corner lights in there? I'm gonna go with the black just because now the headlight's all black. I feel like the black housing flows better with the headlights now. This video's already ran long enough, I think, so I'm gonna split this in two parts. So now we got the headlights done. So in the next video, we're gonna get that grille painted, get it back on the bumper, get the bumper installed back on the car, and I'm excited to see the difference once all that's back on the car. It's gonna look way better than what it was. I think the blacked out grille is almost a must on these. Just looks way more aggressive like the Super Bs and Daytonas. And then obviously the blacked out headlights. Having both those things together should really flow well on the front end. Now, that's gonna be it. Catch the next video. We'll finish this up with the grille. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I think like 95% of my watchers are not subscribers. So for the 95% of you who are not subscribed, hit that button for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.